It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Well, welcome everyone to the Sam Lesante Show, special show, my friends. But let me just make one statement before we start the show. Okay, I want you to all know, I started doing the Sam Lesante shows in 1994, as you know. And prior to that, we worked, of course, with Jack Palance with a lot of shows. But you know I'm 100% positively pro-life. However, I've always invited Planned Parenthood to come on the show as well. The purpose of this show today is not to lecture anyone. The purpose of this show today is to educate and just let you see what's going on in our society today. I'm very honored today to have on the show a person who's been dedicated for over 50 years in saving those little beating hearts that people think nothing of. And also, I'm also honored to have Mary Stchur here, who wrote this book, and the book is called Never Alone. I'm talking about Betty Caffrey, young age of 95. She's going to be 96 in August, so we want to wish her a pre-birthday. And Betty, thanks for coming on the Sam Lesante Show.
You're welcome. I'm
honored to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Okay. And Mary, thank you for coming on the show as well.
Thank you.
Excellent book. We're going to talk about the book. Sometimes you wonder in life, Betty, they say, why do you get involved with certain things and your beliefs? And sometimes you have different religions, and we don't try to push our religion on anyone. We just hope that whomever has a religion practices their religion to get some kind of faith. But your book, or Mary's book, and what you have in here is extremely, extremely fascinating and interesting. So on the very onset here, why, Mary, did you, 50 years ago, start with a pro-life agenda?
Well, I do think it was an act of God, because at that time I had heard about abortion. I just knew that it was wrong. And one Sunday morning at our church, they had a bake sale. And I bought zucchini bread. And the lady behind the counter said to me, "You don't have zucchinis?" And I said, "No." She said, "Come down to my house tomorrow afternoon, and I'll give you them." I went down, and then we talked and chatted, and finally she said, "What are you doing tomorrow night?" I didn't think anything special. And she said, "We're going to a pro-life meeting." Well, that really got me up thinking, and she said, "And afterwards, we always go for pie and coffee." And that sounded good to me. So they picked me up the next night, and the meeting was at Mercy Hospital in Wilkes-Barre, and a woman was there from Hazleton. I don't know or remember her name. She was well aware of what abortion was. She gave her talk. That night changed my life. I came home, and I kept thinking, where have I been? Where is America when they're killing babies and nobody's standing up for them? So little by little, I attended the meetings, and we went from that meeting. They closed us down. Mercy Hospital didn't want the issue there. And we went to church in Sugar Notch, which was a Protestant church, a very pro-life pastor. Well, we weren't there long, and next thing you know, he was transferred, and they got a pro-abortion pastor. So then we went to St. Teresa's. Father Lewis took it over, and we were there up until the time we decided to get a place. I always felt if we had a pro-life place to go to, that would give us credibility, and it did. So we didn't have any money. So then we started with a carnation sale, and that started bringing money little by little. Finally, we found the place on South Main Street, and The man didn't want us because at that time there were pro-lifers bombing and doing all things that were wrong. Finally, Father Lewis said, we have $4,000. If we pay it up front for a year, would you let us move in? And he accepted. And we were there for 20 years offering help. When I would go out to the schools and colleges and give talks, I would always go home feeling, don't go the abortion way, and you have nothing to offer them. So I just felt we had to establish a center, a place where they could come, where they could get the necessary help they needed. If we couldn't offer it, we would be a referral agency. We would offer them everything, counseling and getting them in a place. Most of them were thrown out. The young girls at that point were thrown out of the house and get places to stay. And little by little, it all worked together. And as I'm saying now, we're on Hanover Street. We're there, we're around the clock. We're there from 10 to 5 days a week. We never turn anybody away. But again, if you read the book, you knew we don't sell religion. The only religious thing we do is we have a huge box of clothing when the baby's born, and we will give them that, and we will ask them if they would like to have the baby baptized. Again, they have to get the clergy, whether it's Protestant or Catholic, and to baptize the baby. That's the only religious thing we do. I think it's up to the clergy to take it from there. But what we want to know is when they come in, they're all disturbed about the pregnant and thinking, well, what am I going to do now? What's the easiest thing? What's the cover-up? And abortion's never the cover-up. They soon find out. And so we're there to offer them the help. Now they can walk out, they can go the wrong way, but I've had so many of them come in, and some of them came in from, we have an ad in the telephone book, and we sit and we talk. And the one that stands out in my mind is the one girl who came in, and she was never married. She has a wonderful job. She had everything going for her, and she was pregnant. And she was still debating about whether or not she should have the abortion. So we talked, and she made a few comments, and when she walked out, I didn't know which way she was going. And so finally, we have a circle of prayer. We put her on the circle of prayer, first name only, and we prayed for her for months. And one day at lunch, the phone rang, and they gave the first name, wants to bring her baby boy in so you can see him. And he brought, and then when she threw back the cover, I had my answer, which I couldn't understand why she would go the abortion way. The baby was black, and she didn't want her parents to know. So from then on, I hadn't heard, that day we made a big fuss about the baby. He was beautiful.
They're all beautiful.
And so shortly after, she came in one day, and she had 2 bags of baby things that somebody had a shower for her, and she had no use for them. I was sitting at the desk. She kneeled over to me, and she hugged me. And she started to cry. And she said, Betty, she said, I wasn't going down that road when I came in here. And she said, what would I do without my little boy now? She said, he's the life of my life. And she said, and so I thank you. And she hugged me and we cried.
And there's thousands of stories like that.
Yeah.
But
that
Betty,
was one.
Betty, my question is this. I can't understand. I've done over 6,000 shows. I've interviewed thousands of people. I can't understand. You said when you found out what abortion is, you said, how is it possible that anyone who is human could want to condone, knowing that we have all scientific evidence that life begins at conception? That's factual. The National Democrat Committee is promoting pro-choice and vote for those people who will allow you to have abortions. Knowing what an abortion is, knowing that there's so many people who had abortions that committed suicide. So, but you know, how do you react to the fact that women, and you know, we don't want to tell women how to run their lives. They say, yeah, you're a man, you don't care. Well, I do care. But how do you react when they say to you, well, it's my body, I don't want you to tell you what my reproductive rights are. If I want to kill my baby, I could kill my baby.
To begin with, the first thing you'd say to a girl who's pregnant and thinking about abortion, you're a baby, it'll be a boy. You can't be both male and female. The DNA is different. The blood, everything, blood thing is different. So that baby is not your body. So you are carrying a little individual who has this beginning within you. But the law was wrong with Roe v. Wade. They didn't look into the humanity of the child. And if you look at it, who are the littlest of our citizens, if not the unborn babies? And weren't we guaranteed the right to life? And where is that guarantee?
It seems like it's gone. Mary, first of all, again, I read the entire book, okay? And it's just like, there's so many sad stories in here, okay? And I asked you if you were having book signings, and you told me that some places would not let you do a book signing, which it amazes me how they continue to say, you know, if we want to kill babies, we could kill them. I just can never understand it. Why did you get involved with this, Mary?
Well, I am definitely pro-life, being the mother of 7 children. I have 19 grandchildren.
And you're only 50 years old. God
exactly.
Bless you.
It's amazing, isn't it? But life is the basis of everything. Life is important in every aspect. If you vote against life, what are you voting against, or what are you voting for? But the point is the vote. It's the politics that got involved with all of this.
And money.
And money, and power, and control. And unfortunately, there were several factors that contributed to this movement, and one was the feminist movement in the 60s. And being raised and educated in the 60s, I can remember seeing, you know, women have to do this and women have to do that. But frankly, to take away the motherhood of a woman is her very essence as a creation of God. And that is what has happened with this whole issue of abortion. The politics, the power, and people, unfortunately, most people do not understand what is involved. And that's why Betty's book, and when I got involved with talking with Betty and doing the interviews, and realizing, of course, I was on my own track with teaching and everything else, but that's the whole issue. And even some of the doctors that were interviewed were saying, you need to educate the public. Most people do not realize what is happening. They have a little bit of information, and lies can be convincing if you have a little bit of...
Big time. The Democrats are doing that now. The national committee, they're doing that now.
Right.
And that's my opinion.
And if there's a little bit of truth in it, they'll hang on to that,
exactly,
and then they believe the whole lie.
Campaigning on the fact that we will continue to kill babies instead of worrying about what our society is all about, okay? This is the thing that really fries me. The thing that also fries me is that we have some Catholic priests, okay, who are wishy-washy. We have bishops who are wishy-washy. This is cardinals are wishy. You just told me about the pastor who was one pro-life, pro-abortion. How could you be a man of God and still think it's okay to kill an unborn baby?
And the point is, too, it's the backlash. Everybody's afraid of what's going to be said or what kind of backlash am I going to deal with. We need to stand up and be more bold about what our thoughts are about this. And if a woman, I mean, this book too, and what Betty is talking about, pro-life, and the pro-life movement is not about condemnation.
Exactly.
It's not about saying that you're a bad person. People make mistakes. We're human. What is unfortunate is that now it has become a tool to get rid of what women think is to get rid of something that's going to disturb their life or make it worse, when in fact, make it better rather. What it does is make it worse because of the effects. And again, we talked about too the idea of who still pushes for abortion. It's interesting to note that I found out that it's people actually who are educated, people who have money and enough power to push the agenda for what they want.
Well, you have Gates, I think, his wife giving $1 billion or so many million to continue on reproduction. At least this is what I read. Folks, I'm talking to Betty Caffrey, 95 years old, going to be 96 in August, and Mary Stchur, who wrote the book. We come back. There are so many things in here that it's amazing. The book is called Never Alone. You get the book, and then we'll put the email on there. It's interesting where Mary wanted to do a book signing, and one of the places declined because she says it's too controversial. But if you go into that bookstore, you'll see things that'll blow your mind apart. Isn't it funny that they don't want you to learn about what the damage is that you do? And it's not about controlling people's life. This is basically about education. 75,000 abortions this particular doctor did. 75,000. We'll talk about him when we come back after the break. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. 24/7, SSPTV.com. All of our shows are there, including this one. My guest today, Betty Caffrey, 95 years old, been involved with pro-life for 50 years, just to educate. And the person who wrote the book, Mary Stchur, is here, and we're going to put the email up there as you get the book. I read the entire book. In this book, there's a few doctors that have performed abortions. One doctor, Dr. Nathanson, performed 75,000 abortions. And he spoke at an event you had, and our good friend, Bishop James Timlin, who was a strong supporter, never went into a cave, never put his head in the sand, said, look, this is what life's about, and he was always there. Bishop James Timlin, who were so quick to criticize, and the man was just faithful to his religion. Tell me what happened with Dr. Nathanson, Betty.
Well, when I had first seen Dr. Nathanson, he had made his conversion. He was watching an ultrasound when he saw the unborn baby, and when they were going in to pull the baby out of the mother's womb, having an abortion, it was being filmed, that all of a sudden it hit him, and he said, we're taking human life, and we're killing. And from that day on, he started to lean towards life, but he kept doing abortions. In fact, he even at one point in his book told how he got this gal pregnant and aborted his own baby. So it was a business for him. So as he started to make his conversion, we would invite him to come to the conferences. And the first conference I saw, we sat in the front row, and he came out, and this is when he made his conversion. And of course, we're all sitting there like this. We weren't going to believe him. And he had written a book, and we thought, no, he's going to. And I actually saw him break down and cry. Please, he said, and these are his words, I know what I'm going to face with God one day, but please let me make amends now. And then when we had him at our banquet, he had films that he showed where his wife was going and protesting at the different clinics and things, and she got involved in what they call Operation Rescue, which is illegal, but to go into the clinics, whatever. And the night that he came, he was late, but we had all these films things set up. So we were able to show the people his, the one film which showed actually going in and aborting the baby. And anyway, we showed that, and he was late. First he called me when I got home at 6 o'clock that day before the banquet. He said, I'm not going to make it. Something happened to the plane. I said, you better come, because I had 500, close to 600 people waiting to hear him. So he said, okay, we'll drive in. On the way in, he got lost. It was 10:30 at night. People are sitting there still waiting, and he came, and he gave his talk. And again, he was asking people for forgiveness and asking God's forgiveness from later on. As you know, he did become a Catholic, and then when he passed away, he was a Christian. Yep.
Mary, it's interesting as she said something about, I think people think they're going to live forever, okay? And especially when you're young, and women, you know, young women feel it's my body, and don't tell me what to do, and they're brainwashed, okay? And that's what the Democrats are promoting. Some of them. I know a lot of pro-life Democrats, okay? But the National Committee. Okay, so they're promoting what Nathanson did, all right? Not how can we better our lives, etc. But going back to the religious part, and it doesn't make any difference if you're Catholic, Protestant, whatever, okay? I find that people who have a religion understand these things, okay? Now, there was another doctor, Levantino, okay? Tell me about him.
Okay, well, he in New Mexico, and that's where in the United States, the highest amount of late-term abortions. He was married, and his wife couldn't get pregnant, and they wanted a child so bad, and she never knew it. He was an OBGYN and thought he wasn't doing abortions. He was doing them without her knowing about it. It so happened they were able to adopt a little girl. And he tells the story how one night they were in, I guess, on the porch or something, and the little children were out in the yard, and all of a sudden he heard this bang, and he knew somebody got hit, and it was his little girl. And they did everything he could to save her life. And then he realized, he said, one day he said, I said to myself, I'm killing somebody's baby every day. And this is some.
They're savages.
And it was sad, but it took that to make his conversion. But he told me when I sat next to him at the banquet, and he had the tools that he used, and he said, well, these aren't the regular ones, but these to show you how evil this was. And then he turned to me and he said, the worst one that really got to me was after he aborted the baby, she looked up and she smiled. And he said, I will never forget that. And of course, he made his conversion. I remember when he called, when we were getting him as the speaker, we didn't have the money. He asked $4,000. We didn't have the money. So what I prayed about it, and then I thought, we'll take the money from the rent and we'll put it towards that. And then it came down to $3,000. But anyway, but he had he's not in the abortion anymore, but he goes all through the country now telling the people how evil it is. Yep.
And Mary, that's what we see, you know, it's just, if they only knew the thousands of women that are committing suicides, because when you're 16, 15, and let me tell you, we have a lot of help for them. We know we have a lot of help for those women. And it's not that, you know, this kind of stuff. Let's help them. They don't need our help, they need our help. And that's the thing that bothers me, is the fact that they promote it. Not to let people understand this and refuse you to do a book signing, okay? It just shows you how pitiful this is. And if you ever looked at some of the major corporations we have today, people that we go and buy every day, it will shock you how many of those people pay for the abortions of their employees. I mean, I can't understand it. I really can't. It just...
Well, I think a part of it as well, as we talked about, people who are educated and people who have the money to send out their message to counter the pro-life message, and that's what happened with the Dobbs decision that threw it back to the states now. It didn't overthrow Roe versus Wade, it just sent it back where it started from. And unfortunately, a lot of the young people these days are, as Helen Alvare, a legal scholar, recently said, these young people are unchurched. They have no moral values. The consciences are deadened. The hearts are deadened. And you can't put your heart in a casket and say, you know, you are not, at that point, you have nothing to believe in. And that's why there's such unhappiness in the world. And I love what Mother Teresa said about having babies. She said, how could you have too many babies? It's like having too many flowers.
I read that. I'm going to ask the both of you a favor, okay? I'm going to ask you if you would come back on my show again. Okay?
Oh, absolutely.
Because there is so much to be said. And my friends, the invitation still goes out to Planned Parenthood. I am sort of disappointed in certain things. I understand that where some people would not allow Mary to have a book signing just to meet this wonderful person. But I'm here to answer any questions you have. I'm very disappointed in the Democrat National Committee that they are only concerned about one thing, convincing those young women that someone wants to take control of your lives and don't let them reproductive. The President of the United States, an Irish Catholic, pushing so hard to make sure that you could have those abortions. An Irish Catholic. Amazing. See you next time.